Hey everyone, welcome back to CAF's Heroes of Sport. My name is Bob Babbitt, co-founder of the Challenged Athletes Foundation, and every week we get to meet one of our amazing challenged athletes from all over the world. Our guest this week is Carolanne Link, who just received her grant for a racing chair from CAF. Carolanne, how are you?
I'm great. It's an honor to be here, Bob. Thank you.
Well, Carolanne, when I'm looking at your background, so you're diagnosed with cerebral palsy, 18 months old,
Yes.
and you didn't start walking or even using your legs as an infant. How did you get around?
According to my parents, I scooted around on my butt with my feet in front of me. The one problem with that modality was that if I hit a wall or a corner, I didn't know how to turn. So I would just cry until someone rotated me and I would just keep going the other direction.
Yeah, like one of those toys that goes into the wall and you have to turn it around. Oh my
Exactly.
God. And so you really were not exposed to the disabled community as a child.
Never. Yeah, I cannot believe that, to be honest. I'm so shocked now that I'm more aware of this community as an adult. So I'm sad that I missed out, but so excited to be joining now.
So you learned how to walk, and were you using crutches, cane? What were you using to get around?
Intermittently, I used a cane. I really just self-regulated the walking mostly. So I would tell when my body was getting tired and I would sit. And if there was no place to sit, I'd just sit on the ground for a little while till I felt that I could do some more and get up and do some more.
So when you went to UCLA, all of a sudden getting to class, walking to class was really challenging for you, correct?
Absolutely. It was a real shock to me. I'd never had to put that kind of strain on my body. So it was definitely some self-discovery of pushing myself to the limits and coming to terms with the idea that you can't always force yourself to make these things happen.
What was the lowest moment for you when you were trying to get to classes?
Uh, there were several instances actually where I would have to stop and I'd sit in the gutter on the sidewalk on my way to class. And I kind of would sit there. And the worst part was that I was too afraid to ask for help. And I could hear all the people rushing by to class and think, nobody's asking me if I need help. But also then going, why aren't you asking for help either? And having that kind of introspective moment.
When did things turn around for you? Because you were what, taking the bus and getting, getting the classes through that. But when did you find that there was a population out there of people dealing with disabilities?
So when I started taking the disabilities van at UCLA, which was phenomenal for my ability to get to and from classes, I'd say after about 2 years riding it, I became comfortable with starting up conversations with other people on the van service and having these conversations and getting to know them. And that was a huge part of recognizing disabilities in general, talking to people with similar situations than me. First time I had made a friend who also had cerebral palsy and things like this. After having those kind of realizations that this is something I want to be part of and feel more empowered and chatting with my parents, we realized that it was time to get me a wheelchair, a day chair. And so that happened in, I believe, 2016. Unfortunately, insurance rejected my request to cover it. The sticker price for it was about just under $12,000, 11,700 or so.
Yeah.
But with some real great negotiation with the vendors and winning some grant money from my school and saving up, we managed to get it, but it took over a year to kind of sort it back out. So I did not get my chair until the fall of 2017, I think it was. I may
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
slightly off, but so that
So
was quite a process.
in terms of sport, it was not part of your life, right? Your whole family is very sporty, but
Yeah.
you tried a few different things, but nothing really stuck. If you're going to swim, you were off by yourself. Wasn't anything real social about that. When did sport actually become part of your life?
The first time I did any team sport actually was right in that fall of 2017 when I went to a university committee on disability meeting to ask about some accommodations. And the head of our adaptive rec program was there, Mike Garafola, and he was like, we have wheelchair basketball this afternoon immediately after this meeting. Do you want to just drop by? And me and my friend Katie, who went to the meeting, were like, why not? Let's go. And it had become a staple of my life ever since. I'm very sad that we haven't been doing it since the pandemic, but it was a highlight of my week every week, Tuesday afternoons, to go and play. And I really cannot put into words the exhilaration of the sport itself, but also just being part of a team. I had never felt that before, and it's phenomenal.
There's nothing better. And actually, when you mentioned COVID, so during this period of time, that's even tougher, right? Because so much of what you're doing, the social part of playing basketball or training together, that's gone. So it
Yeah.
becomes really hard physically and mentally, correct?
Absolutely. That was one of the biggest things I wanted to be sure I didn't lose as much as possible during COVID, was to A, stay active, and B, make sure I didn't lose that connection.
What I really enjoy is the fact that here you are, really, you weren't able to be in a team sport till you were 20 years old or so.
Yeah,
And
I was 22 when I discovered
22
disability in
years
their
old.
sport. Mm-hmm.
So 22 years old, and when did CAF become part of your life?
Interestingly enough, actually, the first glimpse I had of CAF was in I guess it would have been early 2019. I
Mm-hmm.
was actually visiting BORP the day that Ella Rodriguez got a basketball chair.
Uh-huh.
So I was there for that big reveal, and that's when I kind of learned a little bit about CAF. But I guess between then and now, I was living with such internalized ableism and this idea that, oh, I was too old, or oh, I shouldn't take this away from, children learning sport like Ella. And I never thought it was applicable to me. So it wasn't until this past fall when my coach was like, "Why aren't you applying for this? This is perfect for you." I was like, "Oh well, I don't want to take away those resources from other people." And he's like, "These are meant for people like you." And so I was like, "Okay, okay, I'll do it." And here we are. So it worked out.
And your grant request for the top end eliminator OSR racing chair with the top of the line. And
Yes.
what do you want to do with that?
The big dream, of course, would be a Paralympics, but of course, I don't want to get ahead of myself because we'd have to see how I go on first. Because I picked up this sport back when COVID started,
Uh-huh.
as a way to keep active, and I managed to rent a rental chair from Angel City Sports in LA. And
Yeah.
my dad actually built a stationary roller in my living room with spare hardware parts,
Uh,
which has been very interesting. I've actually gone through a couple of steel tubes by pushing so much that it broke the steel frames. And so I have yet to get it actually out on a track because all the tracks have been closed. But I would love to get out on the track, start competing both locally and wherever it takes me is my real ultimate goal.
since you are an athlete come lately, how fun is that to just every aspect of sport, right? It just makes you feel better about yourself.
Absolutely. It's a whole new brand of confidence and I almost would verge on saying persona, in the idea that I feel healthier, I'm happier, it's something I can share with others, and I love when I get to introduce other students or persons to parasport, watching, playing, whatever it is. So it's a whole new world.
For folks who don't know about BORP and how important they are, that they were a huge conduit to you to get you in the sport, correct?
Actually, I didn't know about warp until I had been through UCLA rec. And when
Yeah.
I met Trooper, actually a couple years later after I had seen him at the Angel City Celebrity Wheelchair Basketball game.
Right.
But when I was between jobs, I actually came home for a little while. And this was around the time I had was kind of discovering sport. And so he invited me to, come just visit Borp casually. And was and has been an amazing resource of telling me about his personal stories and just getting me into and at the time we were just scrimmaging basketball and playing some basketball. And it was just amazing. And I think one of the defining moments for me was during a scrimmage. I got this massive blister on my hand, And when it popped, he put a Band-Aid on it and he's like, all right, back out there. And I had never felt so validated as an athlete in the idea that someone didn't want to coddle me. They weren't like, oh, are you okay? Is everything okay for something so small? He was like, let's get back where, you can deal with it afterwards. And it was really kind of an awesome validation that moment.
Sometimes when you get exposed to sport really young, people can burn out. The fact that you're so young at this, and I mean, seriously, with the Paralympics as a goal in 2024, you could be looking at multiple Paralympics down the line. Do you also see yourself potentially getting into some road racing with your racing chair?
I do not know. Since I haven't even been on a track, I'm a little afraid to actually propel myself, especially out on the road. But I will be happy wherever it takes me. It's the racing chair is amazing in the sense that you get that same exhilaration of the speed and the cardio and just the mindset, but it's also pushing you against yourself. So even when you're doing it alone, it's just this idea of bettering yourself. It doesn't have to be in comparison to anybody. And I love having that.
So the fact that this happened so late for you, I'm sure you're seeing other folks who are in wheelchairs who maybe they haven't found sport yet. And you can be that person to direct them to CAF or to BORP, to other organizations.
I definitely hope so. Since I became part of the disabled parasport community, most people are actually well more involved than I am. So I'm still the baby in a lot of ways, but I am very anxious to find people I can share my experiences with. But I have loved taking what I've learned and even sharing it with the able-bodied community in my life. Even just having them watch parasport events, and especially the qualifications and qualifying stuff for Tokyo. I've been like, oh, flip this on or check this out on YouTube, and just building that amazing following both within the disabled community and beyond.
So when you're in training, which you're in training, are you able to are you still riding indoors?
Yes. So what I have going on at the moment is that I am pushing 5 times a day with various endurance or sprint exercises that are set by my coach. And then we also have body weight exercises that are thrown in on a regular basis and shoulder rehab. And then he's got me on like whatever the nutrition plan he has. So I am trying to balance everything along with work. And I'm also a grad student. I'm getting my MBA at UCLA as well while I full-time work. So balancing everything together is pretty crazy.
And where you working?
I work at UCLA. I work in the Disabilities in Computing program, and that is responsible for UCLA's digital environment to be accessible to people with different disabilities. So my life is disability centric in every aspect of what I do, and I love it.
Your life revolves around sport. Who would have known that, right? For the first 20 some years of your life, sport didn't even exist, and now your life revolves around it.
Yeah, it's super central.
And on the with the racing chair, did you say you were working out five times a week or 5 times a day?
5 times a week, but
Okay.
Of chair sessions, and then adding in the as I said, the body weight and the shoulder rehabs and all this other stuff.
But so cool. This is all brand new to you. When someone's
Yes.
saying, okay, I need you to do this interval or that interval, you're like, oh, I've never even done that before. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm always surprised when he changes up the program and he sets both the program of what I'm supposed to do and then tells me the speeds on my speedometer approximately where he wants me to hit or stay for the different intervals. And so whenever he changes that up, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can do that. But it's always very exciting. Like, let's try this. Let's try this new challenge that he's laid out for me and see how it goes.
If you were to give a message to the Carolanne Link who was struggling to get around campus, right, before she discovered wheelchairs and discovered the sport, what would your message be to her?
Oof. I think the biggest thing I would want to tell her is that she is valuable and that she has so much. I think my biggest problem at that point is to not know that I had value and being so insecure, both as a person and not knowing my place was in the disabled community or in the able-bodied community. So to tell her that she's valued and that she is loved.
And you're a perfect living example of this, but you have discovered the power of sport.
Absolutely.
How important is sport?
I, um, I have a hard time putting it into words, to be honest. The idea of it brings such vitality and confidence, and it's hard to imagine the me that accepted that it wouldn't be a part of my life. Like looking back on that, I can't believe that that was my norm. So it would definitely be um, to say that it should be universal. It should be for everybody. It is for everybody, no matter if you want to go to a Paralympics or if you just want to, get your heart rate up for a second. But it should be available to everybody. And I'm so glad I know that for myself now and can share that with others.
Hey, Carolanne, thank you so much for taking time to join us on CAF's Heroes of Sport. It's wonderful to have you part of our CAF family.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all that you do.
Appreciate it. Carolanne Link has been our guest on CAF's Heroes of Sport, and we'll catch you guys next time. See ya.